Hey guys, welcome back to RMA Garage. I'm excited because it's Saturday and I get to do a video and I get to clean my bike and I get to hang out with you guys. So what are we going to be doing today? Well, we are going to be doing the tedious task, well, it's not too tedious, of taking apart the electrical connections and cleaning them. And shout out to Blenzol for sponsoring this video. We are going to be using their Vapor Clean, which is an electrical contact cleaner, and we're going to be using this. This is a fantastic product. This stuff is great for cleaning electrical contacts. It's great for cleaning up oil. It's great for cleaning up anything on the bike that is chemical or oil or residue. It's just an overall awesome cleaner. It doesn't smell real bad. It's not nauseating, and it evaporates very quickly. It doesn't leave, it doesn't sit. But in a day like today, where it's 20 degrees outside and I'm trying to warm myself with this hat and the heater that's just off camera, this stuff is going to be freezing on my fingers. So we'll just do the best we can. But shout out to Blenzol for sponsoring this video today. All right, guys, so let's get to it. All right, guys, so the reason why we clean these things is because they get dirty. Why do they get dirty? Is because of the design of the plug. And the plug design on this side of the bike, now it's not always in every case, but these two plugs in general get the worst. And the reason why is because the socket is facing skyward, okay? So if I take this out, you can see that the socket faces up. Okay, well there's really no rubber seal around here. There is a little bit down in there, I think. There might be something. But what happens is dirt and water get into the top of this and it just slides and it just sits there. Okay, you have this one and then you have this one faces skyward. And these are a little bit tricky to get off. This happens to be the plug for the fan. If you guys have the aftermarket fan, this is the wiring for that. I bought the fan to keep things cool because we ride in the middle of summer and it gets really, really hot. So the fan works out great. But as you can see, this one faces skyward too. If I can get this out. All right, so now we should be able to take this off. There's like a little plastic piece that is preventing this from sliding off its bracket, just as a safeguard, but you need itty bitty fingers to get this thing off. There's a little plastic tab back there. There we go, itty bitty finger. So this one faces skyward as well. And you can see there's a little, now these aren't super dirty because my son didn't ride his bike much last year. But this is what I clean, okay? And I'm gonna show you guys how I go about cleaning these things. Okay, now if you look at this one, this socket faces down. We'll use our tiny little finger again. Poink. All right. So as you can see, this one faces down, so the water, as it comes up over the bike, it goes over it. So this one typically does not get that dirty. All right, we've got our Vapor Clean. Super fantastic stuff. Now, I don't use a hose because the hose tends to go a straight stream. It doesn't fan out. So what I want to do is I want to spray this down here and have it fan out into everything, into the entire plug, so it can basically water jet all the corrosion and all the dirt out from under there. So what I do is I get a towel and then I just spray. Okay, and then I take a Q-tip and I start kind of going in here and I start looking for dirt. Now what you want to do is you want to make sure that you don't bend the tabs. There's two little metal tabs in there. You don't want to get too vigorous with the Q-tip. You want to just go in there and grab as much dirt as you can. Okay? And there is dirt in here. Even though he only rode this a handful of times, there is really, it's amazing on how dirty these get. Okay, so we got a little bit dislodged. We'll do it again. All right, it's definitely coming clean. Now before, I don't want to give you guys false hope. If you have an entire riding season on these plugs, these are going to be so dirty and they're going to take a while to clean. So for the sake of this video, these really aren't that dirty. They're actually pretty clean. This one here, not so bad. Just trying to get as much dirt off as the front of the plug as we can around it. But this is basically how I do it. And if there's stubborn dirt, I take a pick and I will kind of get into the crevices a little bit. Now inside the plug I don't do much with. I actually kind of cake that with dielectric grease. That pretty much keeps the dirt from going back into this plug. And you can see there's still a little bit of grease left in there from the last time I did this. I use Permatex dielectric grease, and I have a really big tube of it because I have 3 dirt bikes and I have other things that I use this for. And I don't know why they still use these types of containers. These, when you press on them, they deform and they never come back. And it just seems like, I don't know, that you would think there'd be a better way. Anyway, it's a deformed mess, and you have to be careful that you don't actually smash it, or when you take the lid off, it'll squirt out. So I put a little bit on my finger right here, and then what I do is I take the plug, the upper socket, and what I do is I just try and kind of cake some dielectric grease in there like that. And what that's going to do is that's going to allow the plug to stay waterproof inside there. And when it slides over into the socket, it will squish down through and around and everything, and it'll basically be like a little bit of a waterproofing there. Okay, now I don't do anything with the socket, just with the plug itself. And then we will plug this back in here like so. And there we go, we got it all clean. And that's pretty much all that it takes. All right, guys, we just cleaned all the plugs on the bike, and we know that they're free from dirt and they're ready to go for the season. I just wanted to show you too, the rags are definitely dirty. You don't think the plugs are very dirty, but they do get dirty after doing all of them. So another shout out to Blenzall for sponsoring this video and giving us products so we can clean our bike. I highly recommend this. Please check out their website, links below, where to purchase, links below. This is great stuff. Give it a try. You won't be sorry. So you guys just watched me clean these 3 plugs, and that was the end of the video. But obviously I needed to clean all the plugs, and I recorded myself doing that. And when I went to edit the video, it seemed like there was a lot of content, and the video dragged on and on. So I just ended it with these 3 plugs showing you how I do it. But if you guys are interested in me getting into all of the other plugs, then continue watching, because it probably goes on for maybe an hour. I just didn't stop the video, and I commented along the way. But for the general cleaning aspect of it, I stopped it here. But continue watching if you want to watch the rest of the cleaning. Oh, and by the way, I did forget a plug. There is a plug underneath here at the cylinder head, And it looks like that I haven't cleaned it the last time, so I must have forgotten it the last time. So I definitely need to clean that one. I don't see any evidence of dielectric grease, so I may have forgotten this one on the first time as well. So anyway, guys, enjoy the rest of the video. This one here is a little bit dirtier because it's in the front and it's also a wider throat. So this one's going to probably take a little bit more time. And yes, the vapor clean is freezing on my hands because it's probably 50 degrees in the garage. And again, I'm going to put skips through this. If you guys don't want to see this, there really isn't much to see and to do with these other than the tedious task of cleaning these out. But I want to at least show you this is how I do it. And if you guys have any questions or comments, all right, that looks pretty good inside. And then again, these plugs here, you really can't clean inside. I don't stick anything in here because I don't want to risk bending the tabs. The Q-tips don't fit down there. So really there isn't much to do. But there is some dielectric grease still in there, so I know that it's doing its job, because if the grease is taking up the space, then there's no space for the dirt to get in. Okay, so we take some grease, and again, we're gonna basically squish it down in there like so. And there's been a lot of comments on whether dielectric grease is good or bad, or does it help or does it hurt. I've been using it for years, and I haven't had any problems, knock on mahogany. Okay, so that one's done. And again, these little plastic tabs that hold all this stuff on here, they're so tiny. If I can get this thing off. There we go. Well, this socket here is not too bad because it faces, like I said, it faces down like this, and it actually has a rubber washer, a little cone in there. And these are probably, there's probably some in here too. It's just that this one is like a clear plastic, kind of opaque-ish. This is completely black, so you can't see it in there. All right, so let's clean this. All right, it's definitely coming clean. Wasn't really that dirty. So this video is going to make it seem like, it's no big deal at all. Well, if there's a lot of dirt in here, sometimes you may need to clean these out 2 and 3 times. You know, clean it and then spray some more of the cleaner inside. And again, this cleaner is already evaporated. And that's what I love about this cleaner, is that you can spray this in here. You can spray this cleaner inside this plug, and you have about like 60 seconds to wash it around. And then by the time you get that much time into it, it's completely evaporated. And it doesn't smell bad, doesn't leave a residue. You guys got to try it. I actually have probably 4 or 5 cans in the garage other than what you guys saw in the beginning of the video. So I'm pretty well stocked up with it. And by the way, it does not attack O-rings. It doesn't expand O-rings. It doesn't, it's not destructive like carburetor cleaner or anything like that. I've used it. It's safe around all the rubbers and all the rubber seals inside here. I've never had an issue with it. Okay, so put some more grease down in here. You still have to use the cleaner in a well-ventilated area because it is a solvent-based material. So, okay, so one thing I've done in the past is you're going to have to put this on first. If not, you can't. If you slide the plug in there first, it won't go over. You'll have to struggle with taking it off again. I've made that mistake before. So there, we've got that done. This plug here. Wrap it underneath. I can get this on. Okay, that one's on. And you hear the click, hopefully, maybe. There, we've got 3 plugs done, and that is basically how I do it. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you all the other plugs on the bike that we have to do. All right, so the next group of plugs that we're going to tackle are, there's 2 up here. This plug happens to be where you plug in the computer programmer. This is where you do that, reprogram the ECU. Then there's 2 plugs down here. Now the nice thing is these 2 plugs face down and they're behind the radiator. So every single time that I've gone to clean these, they have been completely clean. And it's been a wonderful thing. So, but how you get to these is you have to take this off, and I believe this is, I'm not sure, don't quote me on this, but this is the, I believe this is the rectifier. Oh, that's loose. All right, so we have to just take this off real quick, and this helps us get to the plugs easier. And there's just 2 number 8s. And I must say, using the electric clean, there is literally no oil on my skin at all right now. So trying to hold on to anything right now is very difficult. And there's a little metal spacer in here. Make sure that doesn't drop off. These actually slide out really easy. So we want to set those aside. You don't want to drop anything down into there. Hey, look at that. That's off. Now we just have to get this one off. There we go. Beautiful. So now I can get to this plug. There we go. See in there, it's really not that dirty. So cleaning these is really not that big a deal. In fact, there's no dirt in these things at all. It's amazing, just being behind the radiator. So we definitely want to check to see if there's enough dielectric grease on the plugs. And we're going to add a little bit more of that. So historically speaking, I've never really done a lot of cleaning on those plugs because they really don't need it. But I will put some dielectric grease on these just to kind of butter them back up a little bit. Make sure that we've got enough in there. Hopefully you guys can see that. Just a little bit, not a whole lot, because there's already some in there. But the reason why I do this is I like to check things, because you never know. Maybe the bike went down in a puddle of water and I don't remember that, and especially this not being my bike, I don't know what he did to it. So I always like to check these just to make sure, because it's so important for these electrical systems to work properly. so what we're going to do is we're going to slide these down first. So what I like to do is I'm going to slide these on, I'm going to pop these in, and then I can screw this to the bike, okay? Because this one you might be able to get down through it. It's got enough, but this one's not enough. You have to slide this down on first before you can slide the plug back in. So it's a little tedious, but let me see if I can. All right, those are both down. So now I'm going to do the back one here first because it's way in the back. There we go. It's really not this hard. It's just trying to do it on camera. All right, so now we plug this one back in. Perfect. Now we can put this back on. Actually, you know what? We're going to let that loose because then that'll at least allow me to get to this a little bit easier. So these plugs on the top, we're going to see how bad they are. They typically don't get too bad. So my hands are cold. I have no more oil on my skin. So grabbing things and pulling on things seems to be a little bit difficult right now. So as you can see, there's a lot of dirt around that plug because it's pretty much right in the line of defense. Now, even though this one is pointing down, it really sees a lot of action. And we're going to try and get this one off. There we go. And I want to show you guys if I can zoom up here. Okay, so this is the plug. This part here is what slides over to top of the metal tab. And then this thing is what you're trying to push up. You're trying to push that up like so, just like that. And that's what slides, that's what makes it slide off the tab. All right, I use a rag like this just so I don't drench my hand. It's coming clean. The dirt's more or less just the surface. It wasn't too deep. All right, so that's clean. But this plug up here is actually pretty dirty. Just going to use what's left over on the rag that I just sprayed in for the plug to clean that. And there's really not a whole lot of dielectric grease in there. So being this is just a plug, there's no tabs in here, so a little bit of cleaner still in there. All right, so we're going to put some grease in there. Slide that over. I'm good to go. Okay, this one here, again, we got a little tab back there we got to pull. Second, that's not going to go over. Wonder if we need to take this one out first. Maybe we'll do that. that's not working. Okay, so let's slide this one off if we can. We should have enough space here. There we go. I think it's past the tab. There we go. And this one I can reach with my finger. It's so much easier if you can just use your fingers. And this one still has the grease on it. And this one's really not that dirty. Now obviously this is facing sort of up, but this one's actually not too bad. We'll still give it a cleaning just because we got it all apart in case there's a little bit of residue in there. A little bit of dirt that comes out, a little loose. You guys are probably wondering if I'm concerned about the Q-tip leaving little pieces of fabric in there or cotton. It really doesn't leave that, at least the Q-tips that I'm using. There's no residue in there at all. I can see down in there and there's no bits or pieces. I'm not really jamming it in there. I'm just kind of using it as a dauber. A dauber, what's a dauber? All right, so that looks pretty good. Let's see, the plug. Plug looks fantastic. A little bit of dirt on the top of it. All right, so we'll put some grease on the top of that. I'm going to partially slide this on and then put this plug in and then slide the rest of it on. There we go. And then this will slide over top, and then there you have it. These are the wires for the kill switch and the clutch. That's what this does. Okay, and now we'll fasten this back on. Not too tight, steel bolt into aluminum. It just basically has to hold this bracket on. Now this is allowed to float, so this won't be 100% tight because the spacers is what you're fastening to that little metal spacer, and then this floats a little bit, so it allows it to have some vibration dampening. Okay, so now we're going to do the rear of the bike where most of the plugs are ganged together. So we're here at the rear of the bike, and of course you've got the wiring harness. Always looks like a rat's nest when it's being portrayed like this. We're going to go over a couple of things, just some items that I know what they are, and what I do and how I take care of them. So this is the plug for the fuel pump. This is what if you watch the video for underneath, for taking the gas tank off, this is that plug. It looks really clean. It usually doesn't get dirty because it's underneath the seat, underneath the tank, and it has this rubber boot that goes over top of it, and there really isn't anything. Now what I'll do is I'll use dielectric grease in here when I go to put this back. I don't want to put it on now because that grease will attract dirt and it'll get dirty. Don't want it to happen, okay? So here is another bank here. These are 2 relays. I don't know which relays go to which. One's a starter relay, I'm not sure. Don't know everything there is to know about this bike, but this is a 5 amp fuse, okay? And as you can see, that thing is dirty. There's dirt. And if you see this plug, now again, you've seen all the other plugs on this bike, and my son only has a few rides on it, but these plugs, this whole mess back here is open on the side, and it collects all kinds of dirt, all kinds of it's just in harm's way. And one of my biggest gripes with Yamaha is having this open on the side of the bike and having all these plugs get so dirty. This one may take a couple of times. This may take a few cleanings to get 100% clean. This is so bad. And this even had a cover on it. So if you don't want to watch me clean this, you can skip ahead, but this is not fun. But if this fuse was to go out on a ride, then you would be pushing it back to the truck or camper or anything for that matter, whatever you transport your dirt bike. So we're probably going to fast forward through this one because this one here is going to take a little while. Or you guys can watch. It's up to you. That's why I got the chapters in there now. I love the chapters. Now all of this outer is more or less just on the outside of the plug, the outer dirt. The inside is clean, the inside of the cover is clean, and that's what we're going to focus on right now, because quite honestly, this is going to get dirty again and again and again and again. But as long as we keep that clean. Also too, this fuse I may end up replacing eventually because it seems like it's a little dirty. Yeah, I don't have one now, but I'm going to get one at the auto parts store. Because it's a little dirty in the contacts there, and this is getting it's getting dirty as well. Not quite sure where we have them in the garage at this point, but we'll just go ahead and reuse this. I'm not going to put any dielectric grease on it, but we're going to end up replacing that. Okay, so there's a fuse. Now these relays aren't really meant to come apart. It's not like an easy plug like this, or even like the ones we just showed you. These relays tend to be completely sealed. What it is this is the plug, then there's a plastic connector piece here, and then the relay's up on top. So you can see here, I could bend this tab out right here. I can bend that one out, and I can somehow get into this one. But these aren't really meant to come apart. I have taken these apart in the past, and there hasn't been any dirt in them. So I hesitate just because he hasn't ridden this for very long. This takes a long time because these little tabs in here are not quick disconnects like all the other ones. You have to kind of get a little piece of metal in there and you got to pull and tug, and quite honestly, it takes a long time. So these relays I don't take apart. Along with that, you've probably seen, if you've had any electrical issues with your dirt bike at all, people have moaned and complained about these, and these are called the common blocks. This is where a gang of wires are in here basically are just all connected, and sometimes these things get dirty. They're not really meant to come apart real easy either. I have mine taped together. Let's see if there's an easier one to get to. This is probably the easiest. So we'll tape this one back together, but I'll show you guys. But see, look at that. You can't really keep the dirt out of all of this. Okay, so there's a tab right here in the back. If you pull that out, that'll come right off. So basically what you have here is a bunch of wires coming in. Let me zoom in here. There we go. So you got a bunch of wires coming in, and then this is the block that they're all soldered to. And this is the part where people say that the wires break and they get brittle. And what I normally do is just this. I soak it, hopefully some of the dirt comes out, and then I wipe it clean. Get some of the dirt out between the wires as well. Clean that. And then this is the block, the cover. We can pretty much do the same thing with it. And there's a couple of these like this. Let me zoom back out. These are going to be dirty inside as well. But the connections are soldered, they're permanent. Maybe not, they're not soldered. I've never taken one apart. They may just be like a crimped. Okay, and that's all that you pretty much can do. You can't use dielectric grease because it's a permanent fix anyway. You just have to slide this thing back on like so, and then we'll use some electrical tape and I'll tape that back to the wire. Okay, we have some diodes here. There's a diode. This gets taped. I've taken these things apart too, and they typically don't get dirty because there is a tape on the outside that more or less keeps it. But after about a year or two, I do take these apart and I will clean them. Here's another diode as well. So those are two, and then here's another block. There's another common block there. So we got two of those. Then you have on this side, this is really one of, and I'm not sure what all this does. I think this is has to do with on the bike. This has a little weight inside. I think this is if the bike is tilt over. I think that's what this thing does. Now this has a little disconnect on the back, so you can actually pull this plug out fairly simple. And let's see here, you can see he hasn't ridden this. We still got some pretty decent amount of grease on the plug there. And let's see what the inside of this looks like. Inside doesn't look too bad. There's a little bit of dirt right on the face there, which we're going to take care of. Might as well do a new towel. It's actually quite dirty in there. I'm surprised. It's definitely a lot more than some of the other plugs. But again, this sees a lot of dirt because of where it is under the seat and the opening. And I'll shoot a picture here on my other bike and show you how the electrics are exposed. It's not the greatest. You can buy a cover for it. It's made out of carbon fiber, and I think it's $125. And it's like, couldn't somebody 3D print something and make it for a quarter of the price? So, challenge for you guys, whoever have 3D printers, start selling a cover for these electrics under the seat. All right, that looks good. All right, so we got some more grease on there. And we'll push this back in. Hear the click. Perfect, good to go. All right. So there's 3 common blocks. There's another common block right there. Another diode. All right, so I think that takes care of everything right there. Let's zoom up and over. This here. Okay, so this pretty much is the last piece. This is where the battery connects. Starter relay, I'm pretty sure this is the starter relay. So before we take anything apart, we're going to spray this thing down. See if we can get some of the dirt off of here. Put the rag underneath, maybe catch some of the contact cleaner. Well, we knocked a little bit of grease off. Grease? A little bit of dirt. All right, so let's take this off now. Zoom back out. So this is on here with some grommets. The rubber grommet on the bottom. I had this off before once. Should come off. There we go. So this will slide off of its 2 little metal tabs. That'll give us a little bit better chance of getting the plug off. There we go. As you can see, mine's starting to rust. And as you can also see the tabs are bent? That's from taking it off the fender. I don't know if you guys can picking that up. Go back and see my taking the plastics off and you'll see why that's a big of an issue. All right, so this plug here, I believe does have a quick disconnect. You push this in and then you pull up and water just shot out. Maybe it was dielectric cleaner, or not dielectric cleaner, maybe it was the vapor clean. But as you can see, this is a mess. There is all kind of dirt in there. Take this off. That's actually not too dirty. We'll set that aside. We'll start with the plug first. I hope that wasn't water that shot out of there. I hope it was the vapor clean. Guess there's really no way of knowing. Because all I smell is vapor clean. All right, so that looks good. Again, this is the socket part, or I mean the plug part, so it, I don't see any other dirt inside that we can clean. This here is going to be the worst of it. Okay, so now also too, we're going to take out, there's two 15 amp fuses here. One's the actual fuse, the one is a spare. And I can't remember which is which at this point. If I can get these out. Whoops. One was stuck, one wasn't. So the one that's really stuck, this one here, that's the actual fuse. This here is the dummy one. This is just an empty socket, and it's clean inside, no issues. But the fuse is definitely a little dirty. All right, so that one's clean. We're going to put that aside, and we're going to see if we can get this one out without too much issue. All right, I think we'll have to get a pair of pliers for this one. There we go. Yeah, so this here, that's the actual socket itself that's holding the, that's closing the circuit. This is a bit dirty here. So let's clean the fuse. That looks pretty clean. We'll set that aside, and then we'll go to work on this. We're getting to the end of our Q-tip supply here. Okay, so this plug area in here wasn't too dirty. No, it's not. It's clean. So the dirt stayed on the outside, which everything did its job. It just looks horrible. Let's see what this looks like. No, that's not too bad. There is dirt kind of like caked down in the bottom of that, which I don't know if I'll be able to get out. Don't look too bad. A little bit of dirt on the back of this rubber grommet here. There's a little bit of damp spot still on this rag. Let me see if I can at least clean that. There we go. All right, we'll do one more spray. And then we'll wipe this thing down and call it a day. Now, a lot of guys like to use compressed air, and I don't disagree with that 100%, but I don't like using compressed air, especially in this area, the socket area, because you could actually drive the dirt down into the socket. I just try and clean it on the surface and make sure that it doesn't go down into the socket area. Okay. Get all the electric clean out of there. There, compressed air. There's my compressed air. All right, so we are ready to put this thing back together. So you can see on the fuses here, see if there's a glare. There's scratch marks on this one, no scratch marks on this one. So this is the one that was in the actual circuit, and this one was the spare. So what we're going to do is we're just going to put a little bit of grease on this, put a little bit of grease on this fuse, and we'll stick it in on this side. There, 100%. That's in. This one here, we're not going to do any grease because there's no point in it. There's no metal to metal contact, metal to plastic holding that in. All right, so we're ready to do this plug. We got to get the cover on first. So we'll slide that cover on. Okay, we got the cover on. And then we've got the plug here. Just enough dielectric grease, and I kind of squish it in there as much as I possibly can without it being a problem. And now we can slide this down, and then of course the tab's on the outside. So you want to slide that down like so until you hear the click. And then that slides back down over top of it. So there you have it, guys. Every plug on the lower section of the bike is done. So I'm going to show you just a couple of other plugs on the top of the bike, and then that would be it. All right, guys, so there's a few other plugs in here that we want to get to, and this is underneath the tank, and it takes a little bit of time to get in here, but it's well worth it. We just want to make sure that everything is good. I believe this is the ECU. Don't quote me on that again. I don't know 100%, but I'm pretty sure that's the ECU. So we're going to basically take this off to just give us a little bit more space here. And basically two number 8 bolts come out. Okay, and that's going to basically, you know, kind of go to the side a little bit. Don't forget to save the bolts. Okay, and then we're going to also take, this is the, I believe this is the coil for the spark plug. We're going to take that off too. And that's two number 8s. And the reason why we're doing this is kind of a twofold process. One is to take care of the plugs. The other one is to get in here and clean. Okay, so we have these two things that we just taken off. Now you have this plug. And this plug here has a quick disconnect. And I believe this one you push down and that comes out. Okay, so if you wanted to, this is the spark plug coil, that whole thing basically just comes apart. So we could set that to the side, but we do want to make sure that we clean inside here. So that's a little dirty. Well, maybe there's some dust from underneath. So we will make sure we clean that. But the one that I'm most interested in right now is this plug right here. And that plug, let's see if you guys can see it. I'm going to see if I can zoom in. Okay, that's this plug right here. Okay, that plug, if I can get it down, this plug here goes to the carburetor. And that one, I always like to check. And if we can, we may check a second plug. Okay, so I was able to get it out now. So this plug here, see how dirty it is? I don't know if you guys can see that. Oh, let me zoom back out. Hold on. Okay, you see how dirty that is? This is why I like to take this off, because if you look at the plug from inside, it's actually fairly clean. See how clean that is? It's actually pretty clean down in there, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to clean the plug itself. This plug here is pretty bad. We're going to clean as much dirt out as we can. Now we're not really cleaning on the inside because this is the plug side, but at least we're getting as much dirt from out around the plug and on the wire as much as possible. Okay. All right, so that one looks fairly clean. We'll set that to the side. We have this plug, that was from the coil. This one's relatively clean, not too bad. Okay, so there is one other plug, and this one is a pain to get to. I believe this is the plug for the carburetor itself. All right, there it is. Front and center, we got this right here. So that one, that could be throttle position sensor. That's what that could be. So what I'm gonna do, spray that down a little bit and see if I can at least get it somewhat clean prior to me trying to take that apart to make sure that it's all good. Now this plug here, if you can see on the back side, there is a tab. So you have to basically pinch both of those together to get that plug out. And it is a son of a gun in there. There have been several ways for me to try and do this. You can't kind of go in from the side here because you got the frame. The frame is on this side. I have a fan. You've got some other wires, and this is the breather vent for the head. That's the breather vent for the top of the cylinder. But you have to pinch it to get that plug out. And it has always been kind of a contortionist thing to try and get this out. There we go. I got it first try. Look at that. Okay, so there's the plug. There's actually a little bit of dirt in there. I'll zoom up. See the dirt right on the edge? There's a little bit of dirt right there. So we definitely need to take the time to clean that to make sure that it does not corrode anything in the carburetor. Basically, I'm spraying the Vapor Clean on the plug and I'm just wiping it down as best I can. Now the socket itself is actually attached with a screw to the carburetor, and I'm not really inclined to want to take that apart. It just, to me, I just don't want to mess with anything, especially when I'm just trying to clean. I don't want to cause more problems for myself. I try and make sure that I do as little to mess things up as possible. All right, so that works. Kind of maybe push that out of the way a little bit. And now we're focused on that, which is dirt. See if we can soak that a little bit. And again, you're not going to be able to see this other than the ending part, but I'm just basically making sure that I get as much dirt from out and around this as possible. I wonder how many people know that there's even a plug under here. Of course, there's really no way of looking into that plug to see how bad and dirty it is. Let's see if I can take the Q-tip and push it down into there a couple of times. Now, it's a little bit dirty. There's a little bit of residue on that Q-tip. This just hurts the hands, especially when they're cold. A little bit of dirt there. See if I can at least use like a little tiny piece of Q-tip to get down in here. Ouch. Yeah, fairly clean. I think we got it. Okay, now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a piece of towel and I'm going to shove down into the plug and hopefully just kind of shove it down in as much as possible. And what I'm trying to do is trying to soak up all of the vapor clean that has gotten down in there. Now it will eventually evaporate fairly quickly, but you don't want to leave a glob of that in there. Get out, just dry it out as much as possible. All right, so that's dry. All right. All right, so basically we got everything cleaned up. I think we're ready to put these parts back together. I'm glad we were able to get this plug off because I haven't done that in a year. Trying to do this with one hand is not fun. Can't hold the plug and do it at the same time. Let's see here. Oh, I just lost it. Wrong plug. There we go. There we go. Plenty of grease. Get that back in there. There we go. It didn't click. I was hoping for the click. There we go. You could tiny hear the click, but you always want to make sure that you hear the click and that the plug is completely, totally seated. If not, risk having an issue later. Okay, so let's finish this up here. Put grease in that plug, which we'll get to in a minute. We got this plug here, which is on the top. Remember, you want to slide this down. Make sure you hear a click. There's the click. Perfect. All right, so get that out of the way. Put the spark plug back in. That slides in there, and then we can bolt all that together. All right, guys, we just cleaned all the plugs on the bike, and we know that they're free from dirt and they're ready to go for the season. I just wanted to show you too, the rags are definitely dirty. You don't think the plugs are very dirty, but they do get dirty after doing all of them. So another shout out to Blenzall for sponsoring this video and giving us products so we can clean our bike. I highly recommend this. Please check out their website, links below, where to purchase, links below. This is great stuff. Give it a try. You won't be sorry. Comments, questions, hey, maybe I did something wrong, leave them below and I will review them and I get back to you guys whenever I can. I appreciate you guys watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the bell because more videos cleaning and fixing and maintaining our dirt bike for this summer on the way. So, all right, guys, thanks for watching and we'll see you soon.